I am Anna Marie, 26 years old, and I need to tell you about the moment my entire life shattered in front of 50 strangers at JFK Airport. My family had always treated me differently than my sister, but I thought that was just how families worked. I was wrong. What happened that day revealed a truth so devastating that it changed not just my vacation plans, but who I thought I was as a person. By the time you hear the end of this story, you'll understand why I can never go back to being the person I was before. Growing up in suburban Boston, I was always in Stephanie's shadow. She is 2 years younger than me, but somehow she became the center of our family universe from the moment she was born. My parents, Harold and Diana, never made any effort to hide their preference. When Stephanie won a participation ribbon in her third grade spelling bee, my parents took her out for ice cream and put the ribbon on the refrigerator. When I was valedictorian of my high school class, they skipped my graduation speech because Stephanie had a stomach ache that mysteriously disappeared once they got home. This pattern continued through our entire childhood. Stephanie's room was painted and redecorated whenever she wanted a change. Mine stayed the same pale yellow from age 8 until I left for college. Stephanie got a car for her 16th birthday. I had to work part-time at the local grocery store to save up for a used Honda that constantly broke down. Anna Marie, you need to understand that your sister is more sensitive than you, my mother would say whenever I tried to point out the unfairness. You are so independent and capable. Stephanie needs more support. And that became my identity in our family. I was the capable one who needed nothing while Stephanie was delicate and required constant attention and resources. The reality was that Stephanie had learned early on that throwing tantrums and creating drama got her what she wanted. She became increasingly entitled because my parents never set boundaries with her. Despite the lack of support at home, I excelled academically. I worked hard to earn scholarships to pay for college while my parents paid Stephanie's full tuition. I studied computer science and put in extra hours doing internships that my classmates avoided. By the time I graduated, I had job offers from 3 different tech companies. I accepted a position at a growing software company in New York City, moved into a tiny apartment with 2 roommates, and began building my career. Over the next 4 years, I worked my way up from junior developer to senior software engineer. My most recent promotion put me in charge of a team developing security protocols for banking apps. The job came with a substantial raise and required frequent travel to meet with clients. Meanwhile, Stephanie bounced between majors and college before settling on communications. After graduation, she moved back home with our parents while looking for a job that was worthy of her talents. 6 months later, she landed an entry-level marketing position through one of my father's business connections. She complained constantly about the work being beneath her, but still expected praise for the most basic accomplishments. Despite my professional success, family gatherings remained unchanged. Thanksgiving dinners were dominated by discussions of Stephanie's latest minor achievement or dating drama. My parents asked perfunctory questions about my work before turning their attention back to Stephanie. I learned to answer briefly and deflect, knowing that detailed explanations about my projects would be met with glazed eyes and quick subject changes. "Family comes first, Anna Marie," was my parents' constant refrain whenever they expected me to drop everything for Stephanie. When she needed help moving to her new apartment, I took 2 days off work and drove 3 hours to help, only to find that she had barely packed and expected me to do most of the work. When she broke up with her boyfriend last year, I was expected to let her crash at my apartment for 2 weeks, during which she invited friends over without asking and left the place a mess. Each time I tried to establish boundaries, I was made to feel selfish. "Why are you being so difficult?" my father would ask. "She's your sister. That's what family does." The irony was that these family obligations only seemed to apply to me. When I had pneumonia last winter and asked if Stephanie could bring me some soup and medicine, she was too busy with a work happy hour. My parents said I should order delivery and not bother my sister with my problems. Over time, I developed a protective shell. I became less forthcoming about my achievements and challenges. I built a support network of close friends who celebrated my wins and helped me through hard times. I dated occasionally but found it difficult to let people get close, always anticipating that I would eventually be found lacking and abandoned for someone more exciting or demanding. By my 26th birthday, I had created a life I was proud of. I had a job I loved, a comfortable 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, an emergency fund, and even some investments. I had achieved all of this with minimal support from my family. Yet, I still found myself seeking their approval in ways that made me feel pathetic. When my mother called to discuss the family vacation to Hawaii that had been planned for months, I felt the familiar mix of hope and dread. Part of me still wanted to believe that this time would be different, that my parents would finally see me as an equal to Stephanie. The other part knew exactly what to expect, but I agreed to go anyway. Some habits are hard to break, and hoping for my parents' recognition was the hardest one of all. The Hawaii trip had been on the calendar for 6 months, supposedly to celebrate my father's 55th birthday. In reality, it coincided with Stephanie completing her first year at her marketing job, which my parents considered a remarkable achievement deserving of a tropical vacation. I had arranged to take 8 days off work, shifting client meetings and delegating projects to my team members. My boss had been understanding, but emphasized that I needed to be reachable in case of emergencies. I had even completed 2 weeks' worth of work in advance, staying late and working weekends to ensure nothing would fall through the cracks during my absence. "Are you sure you can't stay longer?" my mother asked during our weekly phone call 2 weeks before the trip. Stephanie managed to get 2 full weeks off. "We could have so much more family time if you would make the effort." I explained again about my work responsibilities. "The company is paying for my international data plan so I can check emails while we're there. That's already a big accommodation." "I suppose your job is important to you," she said with a sigh that clearly communicated her disappointment. "At least you'll be with us for the main celebration." The original plan had been straightforward: 5 nights at a resort on Maui, with a day trip to Honolulu. We would have some group activities, but also time for individual exploration. I had researched hiking trails and booked myself a surf lesson, looking forward to at least some enjoyment during the trip. A week before our departure, Stephanie called to inform me that she had changed some of the plans. "Mom and Dad gave me their credit card to book some excursions," she announced proudly. "I scheduled us for a group snorkeling tour on Tuesday, the day you wanted to go hiking, and I got spa appointments for Thursday when you were planning your surf lesson." "I already paid a deposit for that surf lesson," I protested. "And I was really looking forward to the hike." "We'll cancel it," she said dismissively. "The family activities I planned are more important." Mom and Dad agree. "Plus, I got us matching outfits for the luau dinner. I'll bring yours so you don't have to pack it." I bit my tongue, knowing from experience that pushing back would only lead to being labeled difficult and selfish. I canceled my surf lesson, losing the $50 deposit, and resigned myself to following Stephanie's itinerary. 3 days before the trip, my team encountered a security issue with one of our banking clients. I spent 48 hours straight working with my developers to patch the vulnerability, finally resolving it at 2:00 the morning, the day of our flight. I caught a few hours of sleep before dragging myself out of bed to finish packing. Our flight was scheduled for 11:30 the morning from JFK. My parents and Stephanie were driving in from Boston and would meet me at the airport. I arrived early, checked in online, and texted them my location near the security checkpoint. They arrived an hour later than planned, with my father looking stressed and my mother trying to calm a visibly agitated Stephanie. "The traffic was terrible," my mother explained. And then Stephanie realized she forgot her favorite sandals, so we had to turn around. I nodded, unsurprised by the chaos that seemed to follow my sister everywhere. But what did surprise me was the amount of luggage they had. My father was pushing a cart loaded with 5 large suitcases while my mother wheeled 2 more. Stephanie carried only her designer purse. "Is all of this ours?" I asked, knowing I had packed just 1 checked bag and a carry-on. "Stephanie couldn't decide what to bring," my mother explained fondly. "She wanted to have options." As we approached the check-in counter, I saw my father grimace at the weight of the cart. He was not a young man anymore, and pushing all that luggage clearly strained him. "Let me help with that, Dad," I offered, taking one of the suitcases from the cart. "Take another one too," he instructed, pointing to the largest bag. "And grab those 2 from your mother." I looked at Stephanie, who was scrolling through her phone, completely uninvolved in the luggage situation. "Stephanie should take some too," I suggested. There's a lot here. My sister looked up briefly. I'm wearing heels, she said, as if that explained everything. And I need to check us in on social media. You do it. I felt the familiar frustration rising, but reminded myself that we had not even started the vacation yet. I'll take one more, I compromised, taking a second bag from my mother. But I already have my own luggage to manage. My father frowned but said nothing. As we made our way to the check-in counter, the airline attendant looked at the pile of luggage with raised eyebrows. That will be $300 in excess baggage fees, she informed us after weighing everything. My father reached for his wallet, but Stephanie intercepted. Daddy, remember you said you would use your miles to cover any extra fees you promised. My father nodded wearily and presented his frequent flyer card along with his credit card. The attendant processed everything and began tagging the bags. Now we need to get through security, my mother said, checking her watch. We don't have much time before boarding. As we walked away from the counter, my father suddenly stopped and looked at me. Anna Marie, take these boarding passes and go secure us good seats together. Your mother and I will take Stephanie to get something to eat. She's getting hungry. And you know how she gets. I did know. Stephanie became exceptionally unpleasant when hungry, a trait my parents had accommodated her entire life. The seats are already assigned, I pointed out, looking at the boarding passes. And I haven't had breakfast either. I was up until 2:00 the morning finishing a work emergency. Your work can wait, my mother said dismissively. Family comes first. We need you to go through security and make sure everything is set up properly for our boarding. You know, Stephanie gets anxious in crowds. I looked at my sister, who was now complaining loudly about the airport food options. Then I looked down at the pile of carry-on bags at my feet, which apparently I was also expected to manage through security. After years of this treatment, something inside me began to shift. The lack of sleep, the stress from work, and the blatant unfairness of the situation crystallized into a moment of clarity, but I was not quite ready to act on it yet. Little did I know that moment was coming sooner than I expected. After reluctantly agreeing to go through security first, I found myself juggling 3 carry-on bags, plus my own backpack. The security line was long, and I could feel the beginning of a tension headache forming behind my eyes. I had taken only 2 aspirin and a large coffee to combat my exhaustion from the work emergency, and it was not enough. 20 minutes later, my family appeared, Stephanie holding a smoothie and a shopping bag from one of the airport boutiques. She had apparently had time not only for food but also for shopping while I waited in the security line with all our things. Did you get good seats for us? My father asked immediately. The seats are pre-assigned, I repeated, showing him the boarding passes again. I saved us spots in the security line. But they're calling our boarding group now. We need to go. As we approached the security checkpoint, a TSA agent reminded everyone to have boarding passes and identification ready. I fumbled with the multiple bags trying to retrieve my ID from my wallet. I can't believe how disorganized you are, Anna Marie, Stephanie complained loudly. You're going to make us miss our flight. I bit back a retort as I placed the bags on the conveyor belt and walked through the scanner. Once on the other side, I began collecting all the items and returning electronics to their proper bags. Hurry up, my father urged, even though he had only his own items to manage. The flight starts boarding in 15 minutes. I rushed to gather everything, accidentally dropping Stephanie's tablet in the process. It was in a protective case and fell only a few inches onto the rubberized floor mat, but Stephanie gasped as if I had thrown it off a building. Oh my God. Anna Marie. That's brand new. Dad, did you see how careless she's being with my stuff? My father shot me a disapproving look. Be more careful with your sister's things. By the time we reached our gate, boarding had already begun. We joined the line and I noticed my arms were aching from carrying all the bags. When we reached the gate agent, there was a problem with Stephanie's boarding pass. Apparently, she had been randomly selected for additional screening, but had bypassed the marked security lane. This will just take a minute, the agent assured us, calling over a TSA officer. This is ridiculous, Stephanie declared loudly. Do you know who our father is? We can't be delayed like common people. Our father was a mid-level executive at an insurance company, not exactly a VIP. But he puffed up at Stephanie's words. My daughter is right. This is unacceptable. We have a connection to catch. We didn't have a connection, it was a direct flight to Maui. The gate agent remained professional but firm. It will only take a few minutes, sir. It's standard procedure. While Stephanie was taken aside for the additional screening, the agent suggested the rest of us could board to save time. My parents refused to go without Stephanie, but insisted I should board and save their overhead bin space. Take all the carry-ons, my father instructed, piling Stephanie's designer backpack on top of the bags I was already carrying. Make sure you get good bin space above our seats. I stood there now, expected to carry 5 bags onto the plane. I cannot physically carry all of these, I said, my voice strained. I already have more than my share. Stop being difficult, my mother hissed. Just do what your father asks. Stephanie needs her things accessible during the flight. I looked at the mountain of bags, and then at my parents' unsympathetic faces. Something inside me finally snapped, not in an angry way, but in a moment of pure clarity. I carefully set down Stephanie's backpack and another small bag. I have my bag and one of Stephanie's, I said calmly. That's already more than fair. I'm not a porter. My father's face darkened. Pick those up right now. We don't have time for your selfishness. It's not selfish to have limits, I replied, surprised at how steady my voice was. Stephanie is capable of carrying her own things. How dare you? My father growled, stepping toward me. After everything we've done for you. I stood my ground, though my heart was racing. What exactly have you done for me that you haven't done tenfold for Stephanie? The question hung in the air for a moment. Several nearby passengers were watching now, uncomfortable at the obvious tension. My father glanced around, seemingly aware of the audience, and lowered his voice. Pick up those bags now, he ordered through clenched teeth. No, I said simply. What happened next seems surreal even now. My father's hand flew up and he slapped me across the face. The sound echoed in the crowded gate area, and I staggered back, my cheek stinging from the impact. A collective gasp went up from the people around us. The next part of this incredible story is already on the channel.